Hello, and welcome to the newest Jump King episode. This time, 85 falls to go. Welcome. It's a pleasure to be here with you again. It's been temporally in my time, much less than recently. So hi. I don't have much in the way of updates for you because I recorded the last episode actually just a day ago. As I'm trying to, as I mentioned, beef up the back catalog, so to speak, so that I'm ready to kind of relaunch myself, get some videos out, and get producing content again. Last time I was talking about this novel project that I'm thinking of starting. And by thinking of starting, I mean I've already spent quite some time world building. I've been working on maps. I've been thinking about characters and what they will do and how the world will be built. But I am interested in creating a progression fantasy for people like me, who they want story, they want big moments, they want that kind of stuff. They don't want the numbers to be meaningless unless there's something to be gained from that. In which case, I guess it wouldn't be meaningless, would it? Anyways, there is one bit of news, which is I spent part of my morning listening to the new Chloe Moriando album, Oyster. And I'm a big fan of Chloe, to be honest. I've only positive associations for the most part with her music, but I gotta say it did not land at all for me. I think this was her weakest album, and I used to think it was her kind of EP that she did. That was lame. Her EP that she did a while ago, a couple years ago, but actually it's this one. This one is the worst, and by a lot. I like myself some good feminine vocals. I'm a big fan of kind of feminine indie pop. And that has included, over the years, Regina Spektor, Sarah Borealis, Marina and the Diamonds, Biba Doobie, Chloe, and quite a few others whose names are eluding me. Probably because of the jumping and decaying. But generally, I stand by the strength of their vocal talent, and usually it's about the delivery too of these songs. And for me, on this new album, Chloe does not deliver a good vocal performance, and it's a bit odd, because to me she kind of stands on vocals a lot. Like, she started her career playing like a kind of bad ukulele on YouTube, and really just writing kind of earnest songs. Over the years, this developed into her doing kind of yearning songs with some electric guitar, some background stuff that was slowly but surely becoming more proficient, and that's of course great. We love that. But then she kind of went into kind of this Owl City direction, I guess you could say, like a kind of electro dance hall, but also like kind of a sad one. Not like a dance hall you go to have fun, but one you go to like sit down, have a drink in the corner, and and feel sad. And in doing that, not only is that kind of like music that doesn't really appeal to me, it's also like music that people don't really come to it for the lyrics. The Owl City example maybe being the only exception, where it's kind of about the earnesty, I guess, how sentimental and deep feeling those lyrics are at times. And in this album, the vocals are very robotic. There's a lot of auto-tune, which is of course pretty normal. That's not really a bad thing for studio tracks. But it has this kind of, I don't know why I keep thinking this, but like Code Lyoko, OP, techno vibe to it, which can show up in, you know, these kind of techno dance songs and so on. Oh my god, what a fall. But it just doesn't fit. It doesn't work for me. And I feel kind of bad saying that even, but it's true. It just doesn't quite work. Sorry guys, I'm having like a weird brain moment where I'm like, how do I do this? There we go. So in sum, this album is probably the worst one I've listened to in a while. I was giving that to the Taylor Swift album before. I thought it had like 2 redeeming songs, but this is a bit worse because I had to skip one of the songs because it was just bad. And that song is Use or Use. I don't know, to be honest. But it just was not good. And as a big fan of Chloe's music, I've been at her 0.1% listeners in 2023 or whatever. I'm just not happy. And of course, you know, we complain and criticize the things we enjoy, and this is it's one of those cases where it's just like, it's kind of like I'm the Jump King guy right now. That's how I feel about it. 16 falls. We were doing so much better yesterday, even without any kind of warm up or practice, which is a bit shocking. I just remembered that we were questing after the bird before. Maybe we'll get back to that later. Not today. So that's some additional thoughts. I mean, if you don't have the context, you'll be like, what is he talking about? But, you know, go ahead and listen to some Chloe. She's good. Except the new album. So back to my novel. I want to really lean into the genre, so I'm going to Japanify it a little bit, leaning into certain cultural elements that are on display in shonen. This is more not a case of trying to appropriate or appreciate, really, but it's more about activating cultural signifiers. So activating the kind of intertextual history of this genre, bringing pieces of it together that sometimes are more latent. Like if I was going to criticize a Cradle, one thing I would say is like it very latently includes kind of major shonen elements and also cultivation novels components, which are popular Chinese web novels, from what I know. And I don't know that much about those, so I'm not going to bring them into the conversation. But I do have a pretty good grasp of shonen, so I'm going to bring that in. I also want to lean into what I think are the strengths of the genre that haven't shown up on writing quite well enough, like working as a group, like being a team, because that's something that adapts really well to the screen, and it's even something that adapts very well to like the game, right? Gaming is usually fun if you do it with other people. It can be a communal experience that's positive. It can have its own rivalries and frictions, and people meet each other, they fall in love, they fall into hate with each other over these games. So there's really something to be said about the power of these different medial forms when it comes to like group formation. And since a lot of shonens are about relationships, they're about friendships primarily, I would really want to show that strength and figure out a way to bring it into the book. Because when I think of books, friendships, sometimes they're really quite prominent and they work, and other times they really don't at all. And I think a certain sense of camaraderie between male characters is very achievable. It's very common in fantasy to do this. But sometimes this camaraderie is lacking, and I think this is also true in shonen, between women and women characters, and between women and female and male characters. And typically there's not really any representation outside of the... Why am I maxing it? Outside the binary. And I would try to undo that a little bit too. Just because my world that I live in, it has people who are NB. It has people who are in different states of gender identification. And I think that would be something I would bring in at least slightly. In my case, I'm a strong proponent of not overstating when you're trying to be demonstrative of something as a naturalized worldview. So it should only really be called attention to insofar as the world calls attention to it. So I worry that when some writers deal with things like this, they kind of fall into a single story kind of trap, where they reduce different groups, whether they are gender groups or sexual groups, to a kind of single story. Like, I think, to give an example, when neurodivergent individuals are portrayed, a lot of times we get either the genius savant, someone like a Nezuma from Akuma, Nezuma, who is the best, awesome character, love him, or we get kind of outcast character who has some issues, but she just needs to make the right friends, and I do say she. Someone like Eleanor Oliphant, who I also really like, and I think those kind of characters can be done better by not making it their only kind of story. I give two good examples where I think the representation is positive, but even so, I think that they're kind of reproducing popular ideas about how these people are, how they live, and I don't think that's very realistic. And I don't think texts need to be realistic, but I think they need to convey unique meanings that inform how we identify with ourselves and the world around us. And so that's what I'm gonna try and tackle with my representation. Maybe it'll be bad, maybe not. I'm curious to see, because I've had a lot of changing views on how to write these things. I used to think, and I was taught this kind of by, I don't know, just reading people's writing about writing, that one of the keys to portraying a good female character is to write them not as a female, but just write them as a character. And I think that's sort of like true on an elementary level. Like, yes, if you write a good character, then it is possible that that's all you need to do. But I realize that, of course, this doesn't acknowledge the granularities between different forms of identification. And it also it doesn't give much insight into the differences that people have within and without these differences. So, like, let's say you just write a woman character. I will say, for instance, my character in my novella Pangs, Henna, there we go. Let's check my tally. 44. Okay, we're about halfway, and we're struggling today, guys. I wrote her with this kind of framework in mind, that she's a woman, and that's an important part of her character, but also that she could just be a guy, gender neutral in this case, reflective of my heritage, and as just a guy, just a person. You can joke around, you can be silly, you can be threatening, you can be powerful, you can be weak, and she has all kinds of moments like that in the story. And these aspects to me are key in a way to a good portrayal. But I realized, of course, through my alpha reading and so on, that I don't understand everything about being a woman. Go figure. And so there are some points where people have really criticized some things that I've written. And I actually had a section where my alpha readers were very split. And I think about half of them, so like I think 4, I think that's how many, it's about 8 who actually have kind of taken the full plunge. They said that there was this passage about how someone would view, basically how they'd view pregnancy in a way, right? And she kind of used it as like a parasitical relationship or something like this. And I had some of my readers of various backgrounds say like, oh my gosh, no, this is a bit much. This is not how people would view this. But I also had the other 4 say, wow, yes, I do feel this way. One of them even said, I don't think I've ever seen someone kind of put voice to those feelings. And I was very happy about that, because I was like, that's what I was going for. I wanted it to be something where it's maybe not the most normal thought pattern. You know, it doesn't conform, but it's one that some people will find some connection to. And in the end, I realized, from writing Pangs, that novellas don't have the best ground to really explore characters in full. But I also realized that you can't just write everyone without gender or something like this. The gender politics still matter, even in the context of these worlds. And of course, you can do away with them to some extent. But when you do, you might limit yourself a little bit. In this new text, I'm hoping to have very different societies. They're all based around a kind of purported meritocratic view. The idea that, like, oh, if you compete against each other and someone wins, then they get the spoils. They win, they get the benefit. Everything is positive for the winner. There's one winner, one loser, and things aren't really that ambiguous in this world. That's the premise, and I'm hoping to use that to show how this kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of like a corrosive idea, how it distills and changes different kinds of societies. So what does it mean when everyone believes in this kind of potential for victory, or this simple solutions to complex problems? And of course, people respond in many different ways. Why can I not make that jump? 68 and we're stuck in parking. This is the worst run, guys. Oh yes, we did it. We did it. We did it. So in the kind of Japanese-inspired beginning, I'm also really going to draw more from my own knowledge, my own background a bit, which I've typically shied away from, because I don't want people to identify the protagonist with me. But I realized that people do that anyway. So I'm just like, whatever. I don't care anymore. Fuck it. And this character will be very different than me, but they'll still have a lot of my my qualities. And when I say qualities, I don't mean personality qualities. Though maybe a couple of those will creep in. But I mean, like, ones related to how I was brought up. So someone who's kind of from a patchwork family of sorts. How do I get back up, guys? Oh. Who has seen some of the negatives of conflict in their own life in one way or another. Someone who has dealt with feelings of like very great isolation, which has happened when I first had moved to Germany, those kind of things I want to kind of bring into the character to enrich them and to speak to some of these ideas. I feel like I didn't really pitch this book at all. Like, I didn't explain what it's actually about. But I am getting into the themes, I guess. 75, 10 more falls. It's gonna have cool shit. It's gonna have good world building. It's gonna have a world where your shadows are alive. Where people have objects that are created from their very souls. It's going to be a world where you can try to brute force your way through life. And we'll see the consequences of doing that. And it's going to have big dramatic moments. It's going to be I'm not going to say it's going to be Game of Thrones at all, but it's going to be a world that is not forgiving, much like our own. It's gonna be a world full of sadness and struggle, but also joy and fun. The only thing that I'm really worried about is writing quiet moments, because I know that I, as a writer, am a little bit crutched by the "and everything got worse" kind of writing. I very much like to use that to guide my understanding of how to push narrative forward, because I like complications and barriers and difficulties. When I read stories, I don't like them in real life at all. Or maybe I do because I'm playing Jump King. There's one more thing I want to do on this episode, which is review this drink. Coca-Cola. Oreo flavored. I got this as a gift from Teo, and I'm gonna give it a try. Start by giving it a sniff. So I'll say, in my sniff review, I need to be more careful. It does have like the Oreo outside smell a little bit. So I think it might really have some of that taste to it, which is gonna freak me out, honestly. I'm gonna take my first. I'm gonna take a very quick sip. Get all that foam, you know, kind of tasting the crown. Just tasting this kind of foam didn't really give me much in the way of taste. It's okay, I need to stop for a moment. It's I don't know, I'm gonna take a bigger sip now. It's a bit weird because it has kind of like a nothingness to it. Like, you drink it and the flavor is not fully there. And I mean, some of that's that 0-calorie stuff, right? But then there's the white part of the Oreo, the part that everybody eats. It kind of almost reminds me of like a birthday cake taste. It's lingering in there. It's a little strange. I'm gonna do a big gulp. You know, I think it's drinkable. Like, it has the Oreo flavor, which as a drink I thought would be horrible, but I think it's kind of working. I don't love it, but I don't dislike it at all. I think maybe I need to cool it. That's 85 Falls, guys. I'm gonna cool this Oreo drink. I think it maybe will get a little better then. But I would say that it's decent. Like, what's really shocking me is I kind of thought I'd spit this shit out, but it's pretty good. So, you know, try the limited edition Oreo Coca-Cola while I continue to think about how I would describe this. Please like and subscribe, ask me questions, ring that bell. Thank you.